60 years ago, a young actor named Jay North starred as Dennis Mitchell on the classic television sitcom Dennis the Menace. He was shooting the show's second season when his mother, Dorothy, wrote a guest column in the New York Daily News. She expressed her hope that her son would grow up to be a happy and normal youngster and that fame wouldn't impact him negatively. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned for Jay. While the show remains a delight to watch even after all these years, the making of the show was far from delightful for the young actor. Hollywood history is filled with tales of young actors who have been abused and abandoned by the system. Two other examples are Anissa Jones from Family Affair and Rusty Hamer from Make Room for Daddy. Tragically, both took their own lives as a way to end their pain. Jay didn't get that far, but he admits that he came close. His scars run deeply. Jay Waverly North was born on August 3, 1951, in Hollywood, California. He was the only child of Jay and Dorothy North. Unfortunately, his childhood was rough due to his father's struggle with alcoholism. When Jay was only 4 years old, his parents separated, and he never saw his father again. Despite the challenges he faced, Jay's mother, Dorothy, was a source of stability and support for him. She was hired as a secretary to the West Coast branch of the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, where she worked throughout Jay's time on Dennis the Menace. Dorothy's job also led to a significant turning point in Jay's life. When he was just 6 years old, she arranged for him to have a guest spot on a local Los Angeles children's show called Cartoon Express. Jay's performance caught the attention of a talent agent, which marked the beginning of his acting career. In 1967, Jay Waverly North wrote a piece for the Press and Sun Bulletin of Binghamton, New York, in which he recounted his early years in the entertainment industry. Jay had a slightly different recollection of his start in acting, saying, quote, "The acting started with television commercials when I was 6. My mother took me to see the Queen for a Day series, and before I left, I landed a part finger painting in a commercial. That commercial opened the door to guest appearances on several popular television shows in 1958 and 1959, including Wanted, Dead or Alive, 77 Sunset Strip, Cheyenne, Bronco, and The Detectives starring Robert Taylor. In June 1958, Jay answered a nationwide talent search for the role of Dennis Mitchell in the television series Dennis the Menace. He faced stiff competition from many other hopeful child actors. Although his first audition did not go well, he nailed the second one. He then went on to screen test with Herbert Anderson, Gloria Henry, and Joseph Kearns. After that, Jay heard nothing until the spring of 1959, when he received the exciting news that he had been hired to star in Dennis the Menace. The show debuted on October 4th of that year, and Jay's portrayal of the mischievous but lovable Dennis quickly won the hearts of viewers across the country. Once Jay North landed the role of young Dennis Mitchell in the television series Dennis the Menace, he was placed under the care of his aunt and uncle, Marie and Hal Hopper. However, according to Jay, they were anything but kind caretakers. Jay describes his aunt as being an unrealistic and cruel taskmaster. He shares that she would physically abuse him if he didn't live up to her expectations, making life on set unbearable. Despite doing a good job during scenes, he would often receive a slap across the face, followed by a spanking or verbal lashing. His aunt would even grab his hair and shake him, leaving him to dread coming to set every day. Despite the harsh treatment he received on set, Jay spoke highly of his mother, who worked as a secretary during his time on the show. He claims that she never took a dime from him, which was rare for that period. Unfortunately, he was unable to confide in her about his on-set abuse, as his aunt and uncle threatened him with greater harm. As a child, Jay had already gone through a difficult childhood with an alcoholic father and his parents' separation. The abuse he endured while filming Dennis the Menace only added to his traumatic experiences. Jeannie Russell, who played Margaret Wade on Dennis the Menace, shared her observations about Jay North's situation on the set. In an interview with the Daily Breeze in 1993, she stated that it was apparent that Jay was a hypersensitive kid, and his aunt was unusually strict and businesslike. Although she never saw Jay's aunt hit him, she believed him when he said that she abused him in private. Jay North confirmed that his aunt was careful not to hit him in front of anyone else and targeted places on his body where the bruises wouldn't show. He noted that he was shocked the bruises were not visible on his face. While the rest of the cast may not have been aware of the physical abuse, they knew that Jay was unhappy. The pressure of being in every scene was already very stressful, and any extra pressure from his aunt made it unbearable. Jay's role as Dennis Mitchell in the television series Dennis the Menace made him famous, but it also made it difficult for him to find work after the show ended. Despite making guest appearances on shows like Wagon Train, The Man from the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement, The Lucy Show, and My Three Sons, Jay found himself struggling to get roles that didn't typecast him as Dennis. In 1966, Jay starred in the feature film Maya, which led to a television version that he starred in for a single season a year later. His last starring role was in the 1974 film The Teacher. By the time he reached his early 20s in 1987, Jay's acting career had begun to fade. With diminishing hopes of rediscovery in Hollywood, he decided to join the United States Navy. However, his past as a child actor made things difficult for him in the Navy. Jay faced constant berating from his shipmates and superiors. After leaving the Navy in 1979, Jay acted here and there, but he eventually retreated from public life and fell into some pretty dark times. Despite the struggles he faced, Jay had a saving grace in his life. His mother had put all of his Dennis the Menace money into a trust fund and, through investments, parlayed that into more than enough money to keep Jay going. Things only got worse in 1988 when a rumor began to circulate that he had died. This rumor only served to compound the difficulties he was already facing in trying to find work in Hollywood. He was perplexed and frustrated by the situation, and his ex-wife and old friend, John Provost, called him to check on his well-being. The situation was awful. The suicide of Rusty Hamer in 1990 was even more devastating for Jay. Rusty had played Danny Thomas's son, Rusty Williams, on Make Room for Daddy, and like Jay, struggled to find work after the show ended. Rusty's depression ultimately led him to take his own life with a .357 Magnum revolver. His death, along with Anissa Jones's a decade earlier, prompted Paul Peterson of The Donna Reed Show and Jeannie Russell to organize a minor consideration, a support system for child actors. They both feared the same tragic fate could befall Jay. Jay admits that Rusty Hamer's suicide forced him to confront his demons. He was in the same depressed state as Rusty and had contemplated suicide too. He feels lucky to be alive and believes that if he had kept guns in the house, he wouldn't be here today. Despite being a talented, good-looking, intelligent, and charming young person, Jay didn't receive the financial benefits he deserved for his work as a child actor. He was not actively advocated for by an adult looking out for his welfare. It's a classic example of what can happen to a child with such attributes without proper support. With the assistance of Paul Peterson, another former child star and founder of the support organization A Minor Consideration, Jay found a therapist and began to turn his life around. He moved to Florida with his third wife and took a job as a corrections officer, where he confronted his past and spoke about the abuse he underwent as a child actor. Despite the difficulties he faced, Jay remains grateful for the joy he brought to people as Dennis the Menace. He has found some peace with his past, but he continues on a journey of self-discovery. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.